Hey Revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode with Paul Pape, where we're diving into his mission of killing the starving artist myth. Killing it dead. Yes. And he's doing it with gamification. Yes, gamification. So heads up to all those Dungeons and Dragons players out there. Hello, nerds. Hello, is this thing on? You know who you are. But hey, he's here to help you gamify your business. And he's using a D&D type metaphor or structure, process to help you get there. So I can't wait for you to listen to this week's episode. But before we get there, real quick, just a reminder, you can always go to jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com and sign up for your priming guide. So if you sign up for the email list there, you'll get automatically emailed to you a priming guide where you can check out the 7 simple ways to prime your mind for reinvention. Don't forget to go there. Seriously. Also, you can buy me a coffee at, I think it's Ko-Fi/JimJim99. So make sure you go there and buy me coffee if you're interested in doing that and showing your love for the show. But right now, let's get to Paul's story because, as some of you might know, might recognize him, he's kind of a living legend in the theatrical world, in the world of props, and he's known in another life as Santa for Nerds, where if you have any nerdy thing that you want to get produced or designed, he's the guy to go to. But building on his success in those worlds and his entrepreneurial skills he's developed, he's sharing that with all these other creatives, and I think he's really got an interesting process, and I want everybody to listen closely. So let's get to Paul's episode.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Hey everybody, hey, it's Jim. Welcome to episode 125 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with Paul Pape, and we're talking about how to kill the starving artist myth with gamification. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
So, Paul, welcome to the Reinvention Revolution.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and I'm really digging it. But first, before we dig into it fully, as we were talking before we started the podcast here, is that you're in Nebraska, and I want people to know what Nebraska is known for. What's your perception? Did you grow up in Nebraska? Is this like your hometown or kind of area?
Yeah, I grew up here, and then I moved to California for a while,
Okay.
and then moved back to be around family and such.
Gotcha.
So, Nebraska, we have a state motto, which is Nebraska, it's not for everyone.
Okay.
And I wish that was a fake thing that I'm making up, but it's not.
It's
really
not.
what we
That's
say.
real. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's real. We advertise that.
Okay.
I live in Omaha, which is the
Okay.
largest city in Nebraska.
Okay.
And we call ourselves a little big city.
Okay.
Because we have skyscrapers, we have all that stuff, but you can drive 20 minutes in any direction and find corn.
Right.
So what we're known for is college football, of course, and then our exports are millionaires, corn, and beef. Those are the 3 main things that we have there.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking beef, but yeah, okay. I remember corn, like the corn huskers. I have that was my image of sort of the plain states. But okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I was just telling you telling Paul before that we got on the podcast here about I was just out west. It was just fun to be out there and just see different part of the states and just get the different climates going. And one of the places I haven't been is Nebraska. So maybe next time I head out that way, maybe I'll kind of do the middle states there, and get to like Dakotas and Montana and Nebraska and Kansas and all those kind of good places around.
Best suggestion I can give you if you're going to do something like that is stay off the interstate, take rural roads. You'll see it's
really
it's so much nicer.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because everyone says driving through Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota on the interstate is it's the deadest because it's flat and it's boring.
Right.
And it really is. But my wife and I actually went up to Yellowstone last summer, and we did a diagonal across Nebraska, which we hadn't done before.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I strongly recommend it.
I see. Very cool. Okay, well, one last question for Nebraska. Can you share with everyone Nebraska's state insect?
Oh, Nebraska State insect.
What would that be? I just looked this up on
I
the.
think
This is
it's
according to the internet. Okay.
okay. So like honestly, I don't know. I'm gonna guess locust, but I'm not.
No,
Not locust. The cicadas is what I was gonna
no, they
say. Like
say it's the
18-year cicada,
honeybee.
but
They say it's the honeybee.
the honeybee. Really?
Yeah,
I would never have guessed that.
me
We
neither.
try really hard to get rid of them around here. I keep weeds in my yard just to attract honeybees.
Oh, really?
But everyone else is trying to
Okay.
insecticide them out here. I'm like, oh,
I
okay,
don't know.
good to know.
That's what the internet said. But I think the honeybee is actually a state bee of like Utah too. I think. So anyway,
I mean, good. We need them.
there must
So
be
let's
yeah,
keep
there
'em
must
around.
be a region out there where they have a lot of bees. Anyways, all right, let's get back to the topic at hand here. I was just curious, man. I'm just learning about the country this past summer. So thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. But okay, let's dig into this whole thing about killing this starving artist myth, which really speaks to my heart because I've always been into music. I played music. I've been a musician my whole life. I've had like dual careers, but I've been in business, engineering, and business. And I've seen over the years where it's like my interpretation or thinking about being a creative has changed or gotten stronger. Actually, I didn't think I was so creative, but I ended up in the advanced development area of engineering. I'm like, oh, that's the creative part. Actually, I was just drawn to these things. Everybody perceived me as like I'm a good student. I'm this, even though I play music on the side. That I was more of a serious sort of linear thinker. I'm a Virgo or whatever, but it turns out that I am pretty creative, and as I see as I've known both sides of me to kind of go through life, I realized that as an artist, what I think that word really means is that you're very entrepreneurial, and it's like an entrepreneurial kind of endeavor, believe it or not, because artists, traditionally we think of them as very creative, but they also have like a mission. They have something to say. They have a point of view. This is really what makes you an artist versus, right, a painter, a graphic designer, a musician. Like those are technical skills. But the artist part is this other part, right? And how I think about it is that the entrepreneurial part of being in business or whatever it is the creative part, is the visionary part. It means you're trying to build something larger than you, that you're trying to serve a community, whatever it is. So I think like, hey man, actually these two terms makes sense. And the weird thing is that this starving artist myth is out there, which always really bugged me. Okay, because like there's no one should be starving, first of all. But you wouldn't talk about an entrepreneur as a starving entrepreneur. That doesn't go together.
No, you would not.
It doesn't go together. It doesn't make sense. But an artist is an entrepreneur in my mind. And so these two words actually don't go together in my mind. And I think this is maybe part of the message of how you're wrapping this gamification around it, and maybe on a mission a little bit to kill the starving artist myth or to help people like this. Anyways, this is just my personal view on top of it, but explain to me where you're coming from. Okay.
Well, actually, you hit it on the head. It really is that. I love to liken art because let me tell you, I've been an artist for over 20 years. Like if you went really like far back before I was like saying I was an artist, it's been almost 30 years I've been on this track. And the reason I say only 20 years is because it took me 10 years before I would even call myself an artist. Because when people say, hey, what do you do for a living? I say, I'm an artist. They go, oh. I'm like, what the hell's that about?
Right,
oh.
right.
I'm
Okay.
like, no. It's like, no, I'm doing something. Or they say, oh, so you practice, would you like fries with that? And I'm like, no, I actually make a living. And I make a really good living at it. But the thing that I like to liken it to, and I think this is really the crux of it, is that we are like clergy. I refer to artists as the soul of humanity because we really do put out there what brings us, what homes us when we're having a rough day after our traditional 9 to 5 or whatever.
Right.
You go to your art, you go to the creative venture to help you become human again.
That's right.
But we're like clergy, and people view us as though because we have the ability to get in touch with a higher power, that of creativity, that of the human soul, that we should suffer for it, much like a clergy, because they are hired to a god. They should have to live in poverty.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they are given a different boon. The problem is neither one of us can survive without money. It just doesn't work.
Right. It doesn't work.
And so the funny thing is I see so many people, and they do that type of situation when you introduce yourself. but they take out their headphones from the music they're listening to in their really nice car, from the really nice dinner that they just went to,
Right.
and the designer clothes that they're wearing, and every single aspect of that comes from a creative artist.
Yeah,
person.
100%.
So it's like, why are you down? So it's a misconception, and I'll admit it's really strong in the United States. It's not as strong in other places.
Yes.
I've been in places in Europe and stuff. The government pays artists to help the people. The United States, not that way, because we're capitalists, and that's what we're going to do.
Right.
So I really work at trying to explain to creatives, and I use the word creatives because, again, it's that you say artist, we say oh. I
Right.
say creative, and you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Creative is an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
a nice
musician,
word.
it's an accountant. It's a better way of approaching it. And so what I do is when I speak with creatives, I tell them that you don't need to start. You can make a living. You don't need to be famous after you're dead. You can do all of that stuff now,
Right.
but you need to position yourself in a way that you're in control of it. And they're like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, well, you are a business. Whether you're a solopreneur, which is like an artist or a painter or a musician, or you're with a team, whatever, you are a business, and you have to think of yourself in a duality. You have to keep that creative part going, but you also have to do the business aspect of it. And it's that business side that is so crushing to the creative soul, because they're like, it's linear, it's a structure, and I don't fit in a box. We've all had that conversation. Right. I want to do this experimental, fun stuff, and then like get it out to people, but I don't want to have to sell out or all that crap.
Right.
And the reality is no, you really have to think of it that way. And so with gamification, what I did is I took all of that boring business stuff that nobody wants to learn because they feel they're losing their creativity, and I wrapped it in something that they're already enjoying, which is playing games. It's an RPG. I don't know. It's a role-playing game. It's like Dungeons and Dragons is a great example of that.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with that, there are other options. But if you can get a character from level 1 to 10, then you can understand the process of leveling up your business. You just need to reframe. It's not armor and weapons, but it's skill sets and advertising. It's those kind of things. And so I frame it in a way that is accessible to creative minds. Because you said earlier, I was a linear person. It's like, but you had this cloud kind of thought process as well for doing the engineering, the creative engineering, as well as the musician part of it. It's taking that linear part of it and making it more cloud-based. So it's more fun. That's a big one for creatives, because if it's not fun, they're not going to do it. It's just not in their nature. They'd rather suffer and be free than to be constrained and do this thing that they have to do. And so like, well, let's do both. Let's have some fun with it. Right. And it's been really successful. That's what I love about it, is once that clicks in their mind, you can see it on their faces. They go, oh, is that what that is? They're like, oh, okay, I get it. And it really helps them to understand. It also, like, there's a statistic out there that 97% of people who pursue an artistic degree or further training do not do it in their real life. They don't pursue it at all.
Oh, I never heard
because
that.
they don't know how. 97%. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
I fall into that weird 3% that's like, no, I'm going to be an artist and make a living at it.
Right.
And my wife is as well. She's a full-time costume designer.
Okay, awesome.
And so when I was doing a lot of social media, I was on a platform called Twitch for a long time, and I was doing like live presentations, and I would work 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 years. And I would just sit there and I'd do my job, and I would talk to people, and I would explain to other creators. They're like, how are you doing this for a living? How are you making this possible? How are you, how do you figure out what to charge? All this stuff. And I'm like answering these questions continuously. And that's what really got me into, well, let me coach and consult creatives on this as well, because they always have the questions. They're just afraid to ask it, or they're afraid to look silly, or they don't think it's possible, but they see that I was successful at it and doing it for a living. And then you throw out names like, well, because I have worked for Disney, I've worked for Universal. These are high name people, and they're like, they're paying somebody in Nebraska to work for places like Disney, Universal, Nickelodeon. And it's like, yeah, and they're like, how do I do this? And so it's breaking down that barrier of inaccessibility by explaining to them that you're still being you're still being creative, still being an artist, but you are being a business. You just have to approach it in a way that is comfortable and familiar to you.
Right. Well, I think one of the key things there is where the message is coming from. So a lot of, I think, creative people would look at sort of, people that have real business skills that are super successful in business, and they don't identify with them. They're like, that doesn't speak to me. They don't look like me. They don't dress like me. They're too buttoned up, they think, or whatever they project onto they whoever they see like that. But then if they like obviously come in contact with you, someone like you, and you're like, wait, this guy's successful and he's an artist like me. Maybe I'm more open to listening to what he has to say, right? And putting it in the context of the gaming sphere, which is kind of interesting. And I really would, people, you need to go to your website. What is it called? Your business is called Gamify Business, right?
Gamifybusiness.com. Yep.
Yep. You need to go there and check it out, because it really does remind me of Dungeons and Dragons in a way. And you have sort of like handbooks. Maybe you can talk specifically about like some of the packages or offerings that you have, and kind of how you offer it out there, what the packaging of it is, because it's kind of fun to kind of play out sort of this gaming kind of experience here.
So it starts off. I have 3 books that I offer. I have the Creative Player's Handbook to Business. I have a workbook that goes with it, and then I have the Gamemaster's Guide. You start with the Creative Player's Handbook to Business and the workbook that goes with it, because there's a lot of questions and blanks in the handbook, but I don't want you writing in a hardcover book, so I give you the workbook so you can fill it out. Mm-hmm. What I'm not telling people is that when you fill it out, it's actually a business plan. Shh, don't tell people.
Don't tell me.
So,
I love that.
But basically what we do is we go through it.
So this is like, just let me jump in here real quick. And this is like you're developing like your role-playing character. So it's kind of fun of like you're just developing, stepping outside yourself and like, well, what if I was this person? What if I was this, whatever crazy character out there? What would I be like? What would I do? So that's kind of what's interesting to me about it. I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool, because if you're super creative, you could really get into it, I think,
Absolutely. And the book is really an introspection and on yourself. And the one thing I have to tell everybody is, you get this book and you start filling it out, no one's going to read it but you. So be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. A lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, artists, the one thing that they will not recognize is that they have faults. We don't, but we do.
Of course you don't.
What I do is I tell them if they can be honest with themselves, it will be an easier process and you'll get down to it really quickly. And there's still that resistance in there, because admitting that you have a flaw makes you vulnerable. And so what we do is we create a character sheet. That's the very first thing that we do. And we ask a couple simple questions. And this is like literally the crux of the business. And I shouldn't give this away, but I love to tell people it's just 2 questions. What are you passionate about? Okay, it's pretty easy to answer. Right. And the second one is what do you do with that is different than everyone else that is passionate about it? And if you can answer that second question, you have the seed for your business. And then everything else around that is just building the business. Right. But what we do is we have to think about ourselves. And so the character sheet, what it allows you to do is separate yourself, like you were talking about earlier. You disassociate yourself. So you're not saying, I have flaws. You're saying, my character has flaws. Your character is you. Right. But my character has these flaws. And so I can look at it. And we don't, like you think about RPGs, you roll for your strength and your dexterity and all that with dice. But that's fiction, because you need to build a fictional character. This is really you. So we don't use dice in the role-playing game. What we do is we use a sliding scale. But it's a sliding scale between 2 opposites. So are you really like by the book kind of person, or are you more loosey-goosey type person? And you find yourself on a scale. Mm-hmm. And then what that does is, once we see all of that in your character sheet, and if you're being honest, you'll put that in there, you'll see that you have really strong strengths in areas, but then you have some places that you're less. And it's not necessarily all or nothing. They could be like just slightly less in this department. Then what we do is we find a group. And whether you're a solopreneur or you have a team of people, you're always going to need help from somebody. Because if you're a solopreneur, there's going to be things you're not good at. I hate marketing. The worst thing. I find people to help me with marketing. Because I don't like to do it. Right. I can, but it's not my strength. And so what we do is we go looking for group. And the key to that is you want to find people who will round out your group, as opposed to people who are very similar to you. And creative people, we have a tendency to bring in our people that like exactly what we like and do exactly what we do, because we can relate. But the problem is that's horrible for business. That's right. That's like going into a battle with 5 warriors. You're going to wipe. You need a healer. You need a long-range person. You need this rounded group to be successful. And that's really what this teaches you, because then you can look at their character sheet and you can see where they fall on the scale, and you're like, oh, you're really strong in this attribute, which I was a little weak on. That's a great combination.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be friends. You just need a party that works well together.
Right.
And that's how it starts. And then from there, we start. So now you know what your business is, the seed of your business. You know how you operate and what help you should get. And then from there, we start to conquer the world of business. And we cover topics like, how do we market ourselves? How do we find our clients? How do we ask for a bank loan? Where is the money? How do I get there? All of those questions that a normal business would ask, but we frame it in a way that is more of an adventure. We are a reward-based species. If you can dangle a carrot in front of me, I'm going to go towards that carrot. And it's the same in gaming, and that's how we get addicted to these games. And so why don't we take that addiction of a digital device or a screen and we put it into our real life, and we say, if I can accomplish this, I get the reward. And then the next step, I get that reward. And we earn it through small incremental steps, as opposed to this nebulous, you have to do this thing, now go do it. And it just makes it a lot easier to chew and spit out rather than having to really work at it, this nebulous thing that we don't understand.
Right. Well, I like the idea of leveling up, like conceptually, and treating all of life in a way as a game, where it's sort of like, you're just trying to figure out yourself in the end, how your brain works and how you react to things, and kind of keep leveling up into the direction that you want to go in. And this self kind of self-analysis or whatever, I really, it just, if you want to become an artist, quote, like you said, it took you about 10 years to even feel comfortable even saying the word and telling people this, because you need this evolution, you need this maturity, you need this development of understanding of yourself and what you're actually doing. It's hard to be an artist without that. I think before that in your journey or whatever, you're sort of just, well, I'm developing skills. I know how to play this instrument. I know how to draw these pictures. I know how to work with color, whatever it might be, right? But I think you even start to feel it clicking inside you, I think, as time moves on, where you're like, wait a second, I have more of a concept of what I'm doing now, and you're more kind of clear about it, right?
Absolutely. I like to tell people, I said, have you ever walked down the street in a busy city or just a city square, and you see somebody who is dressed what you would consider crazy, and you're like, that's bold. It's bold to be able to have that, to wear that in public. If you approached your life, your creativity with that same like assurity, that person walking out, they're like, this is who I am, and I'm comfortable with this. It's a superpower. I walk, like you talked about, oh, you don't look like everyone else and whatever. I don't wear traditional suits when I go to talk to businesses, because it's a false. It's not who I am. But I walk in and I'm confident in my approach and who I am and what I'm doing, because I have gotten to that point in my life where I'm just like, this is who I am.
Right.
And it's not for everyone. That's okay.
Sure.
But let me tell you, if I'm honest with myself and how I present myself, the people who need my help can spot me.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about having that. And as a musician, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Right.
Like, you have that style that people are like, you're not just playing covers, you're doing your own stuff, or however you approach it.
Right.
And they see that, and you're like, man, to be that guy on stage, to have that confidence. And that's all you're really trying to do, is find out what your voice is and then own it. And when you own it, it exudes from you. And people who have not figured that out, they are drawn to that, because of that confidence is rare. And
Right.
creatives have it. Sometimes they just want to hide from it because they think that they're being looked down on, because they see the eyes move toward them. But if you walk in confidence, it's not an issue.
Right. I understand where you're coming from, for sure. And it's like, it's kind of like, for me, it's sort of like, well, it's the music I want to play. It's the people I want to hang out with, the environment. And, like I've done corporate weddings. I've done, small combo jazz gigs. I've done some like tribute bands, like all these different types of things. And it's like, okay, this set of people, this type of music. And so I want to sort of dress that way, hang out with those people, because it's sort of like, this is the world that I want to live in. And then I think people find value from me in it, you know what I mean? It's got to be a two-way street there. Very cool. Okay. So, all right, now that we understand this Gamify Business, that you're this coach for creatives or people that want to receive the message in this format, okay, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't always the case. Your understanding wasn't always there like this, like it is fully fleshed out now. So let's rewind a little bit. Tell me about when you're coming in out of school and you're just getting into the working world, what were you thinking? Who were you? Why all of a sudden are you an entrepreneur? Or were you, or what it really is you've always been an artist, and those are one and the same. That's my personal opinion again, but
Well, not how that happened.
but tell me, because it's a big evolution, I
Yeah.
think,
It is. I started out in theater. It's weird because, some parents are like, you can do anything you want to do. And that's fine. My
Sure.
parents used to tell me that all the time, but they never said you had to pick something. And so I was like, I'll do whatever the hell I want to do. And so I
That's
got
funny.
into theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got into theater because I was like, this is a great way to express myself and whatever. So I was an actor and
Okay.
horrible actor. I'm not
Oh.
one to be on stage with because I can't memorize lines.
Oh, wow.
with
Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
So not great.
Fair enough.
Great at solo shows. I can do a solo one-man show, no problem.
Okay.
But so I was in college and I was like, I declared the first day as a freshman, I'm like, I'm gonna be an actor. And then after I think 3 months, they're like, we're never gonna put you on stage.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, my God.
Oh yeah. So
Were you going to like a
okay, what do I
famous
do
sort of
now?
acting school, or was it just a university? What, like
Yeah,
an
yeah.
environment?
And they're like, we're gonna switch it up. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so I actually, my mentor, or one of the chairs of the department, he came down and he was there in that meeting where they said they're not gonna let me act anymore. And he's like, how would you like to learn everything else? And I was like, I'm a sponge. So I'm like,
Okay.
absolutely, let's do it. And so he did. He walked me through every aspect of theater that you can, from management to
Wow, cool.
cleaning to design and all of that. And I fell in love with design because it allowed me, as a set designer is where I specialized at first.
Mhm.
And that was because I was able to build these worlds all over the place. So like, you give me a show and I see the world in my head and I could realize it. And I started getting into like human psychology and just really learning all this. And I was like, this is really interesting how little things make a huge difference on the show.
Mhm.
And so then I decided to go to grad school for it. I won some really nice awards because of the
Ooh.
design. So I was like, oh, I'm really good at this.
Cool.
And then right as I was graduating from graduate school at University of California, San Diego, I was working with this guy named John Arnone, who had at the time, I think, 4 shows on Broadway, which as a set designer, that's apex. That's
Yeah.
like, you've made it.
Big time.
And so I was talking to him and I'm like, John, what's it like, being like the apex of this? Because I'm just out of school and that's where I'm aspiring to. And he looked at me and I appreciate this honesty to this day. And he said, it sucks. And I'm like, how does it suck?
Oh my
And he
God.
goes, I'm on the road 48 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
I pay for an apartment in New York I'm never in. I have a team of people that I pay because I have to do so much paperwork because I don't get paid enough to just sit and do all the work myself. I'm constantly moving. If you want to settle down or like have a decent life, this is not for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I really wish you had told me this 3 years ago before I went to grad school.
Yeah.
But I was working on a show at that time, which ended up being this huge thing, Pulitzer Prize winner and all this. And but the show had a lot of chairs in it, and I was hand cutting them all. And because I was building models, because what you do as a set designer, you build like a little version of it so they could see the design.
Oh, I see.
And I was cutting out over 100 chairs, and I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I was wandering through some grocery store out in La Jolla, and I saw these greeting cards that had these images, like these negative spaces in it. And I was noticing that they're burnt on the edges, and I was like, somebody has cut these out. And it kept the integrity of the paper, and it had to be faster. So I started doing some research, and this is before everyone had a laser in their basement.
Yeah,
which
I was
they
going to
do
say, yeah,
now.
laser cutting. Right.
Yeah, and I found Hallmark, and I found their laser that they use filled a warehouse. It was huge.
Yep.
It was the size of like 2 trail 18-wheelers stacked together. And I actually worked with them to create a product called Pop-Out Furniture, and that was my first entrepreneurial thing.
Oh.
And it was scale model furniture for theater designers, architects, and dollhouses.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my first venture into it. And it was really successful because I was filling a niche that just wasn't there. And that was a brilliant idea that lasted about 4 years before everyone started getting 3D printers and lasers. And then the business just went poof.
You were ahead of the game for a
And
minute.
so
yeah.
I was, just for a hot second. But it was interesting to see it viral because I would go to these trade shows and it was like a rock star. I'd go do product presentation and it was like the guy before me is talking about lighting and diodes and all this, and it's super dry. And I'd go out there and I'm like, hey kids, and I'd just have fun because I'm just on stage with myself. And I'd get standing ovations and I was like a little rock star. And I got that little taste of what it would be like to be successful at it. And then I was living in LA at the time. We were trying to make it, my wife and I trying to make it in the LA scene. I got some other bad news about this is going to take too damn long and I don't have time for that. And one day my wife came home and she's a costume designer and she's like, I took some summer stock work out in Iowa and I'm not coming back. So if you want to stay married, you can come back to Nebraska with me.
Wow.
Or you can stay here.
Really?
And I was like, yeah.
Like an ultimatum,
like,
look, I'm doing this.
Yeah. She's like, I'm done with LA. And I'm like, okay, well, I like my wife and I was okay with LA. So I'm like, all right. So she left. I boxed everything up. We moved back to Nebraska and I was like, I'll do pop out furniture from wherever or whatever. And got back, I saw it slowly starting to decline. But then my alma mater, one of the schools I went to, UNO, University of Nebraska, Omaha, they're like, hey, would you like to come in and be our design teacher? Because now that you've got all these degrees. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come and do that. And I love teaching the students. Hated the academia part of it, like the structure of it. Like I was working 16-hour days, 5-6 days a week, and I was being told I wasn't doing enough. It was crazy.
Wow.
And that's just theater for you.
Yeah.
And so, but I had a student ask me to make a figurine called a Mii. I don't know if you remember the Nintendo Wii. It was all the rage back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
So the little avatars of you were called Miis. And he's like, can you make one for me and my girlfriend for Valentine's Day? I'm like, yeah, sure, man, I can do that. And so I made it and he loved it. But unbeknownst to me, he posted it on a blog platform. This is before social media was a thing.
Right.
And it was picked up by this page called Super Punch. And it took off like wildfire. And I had never gone that viral before. And I had so many people asking me, hey, can you make me something? That I was getting more money on the side than I was teaching. And I was doing something I really liked. And so I asked my wife, I say, hey, can I quit the teaching thing and go do this full time? And she's like, we're all traditional. And we're like, no, you have to have a real 9-to-5 so we can have a family and all that.
It's hard.
And
it's
she's like,
shift in your mind that has to start happening, right?
Absolutely. And she's like, I'll give you 1 year. And if you can't make this happen in a year, you're going to go get a real job. And I had a second idea that ended up going viral. I made $50,000 my second month out. Bang. And she's like, I think you can do this. I'm like, I'll do my best. And she knows I'm a hustler. This is, I will work to do this.
Right.
And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we cheated the system, bought a house right while I was still employed. And so we could, get around that.
Right.
We've been here ever since. But it's really just the confidence that I knew I could do it if I tried. But I think the biggest lesson that I learned through this is that you can't be rigid, especially as a creative. You can't be rigid in what you think you're going to do, because if I would have stuck with pop-out furniture, I would have gone bankrupt. If I would have stuck with theater design or movie design, I'd be divorced and living in LA by myself and been miserable for 10 years.
Right.
It's basically, I call it bending, don't break. Go where the work wants to take you. Enjoy the journey. If you're too rigid, you're going to fail. But bend a little bit, kind of go, like you were talking about, you played all different kinds of venues and music and all of that stuff until you found your voice. And then once you've done it long enough, you've got that voice, you've got that confidence. And then you're like, no, now I can lead. And so I don't have to keep doing this. And so now I'm known as the guy, I'm Santa for nerds. That's actually somebody called me that one time and it stuck. And it's basically, I can make anything that you want that's nerdy. And I've been doing it for, like I said, 20 years. And that's been what's really kind of helped propel me out. So
I got you. Interesting. Okay, so that got you sort of shot off into the entrepreneurial world. Right. And so you're like, oh, wow, I can do this. People are finding value. They're starting to find me, right? Because it's like word of mouth starts and you don't have to do probably a lot of advertising and all that kind of stuff early on because you weren't even perceiving yourself as a business person at this point, right?
Correct.
You're like, I'm just having fun and people like what I do and it's cool, right? So fast forward a little bit from there, like when does this idea of like, wait, I guess maybe the Twitch part where people start looking at you like, man, Paul's super cool. He does all this cool stuff. It looks like he's making a killing. He's killing it. How can I be this guy? How can I be Paul? Basically, right?
Yeah, that was a big switch for me. And here's I am transparent as water. If you ask me how much a job is paying or how much I'm making in a year, I'll talk about it. I don't care because it demystifies everything and it doesn't affect me to tell anybody.
Right.
And so when they would come and ask me, they're like, well, what did you charge for that? I'm like, I charge this much. Well, how did you figure out that? And I actually have a mathematic equation because I'm a nerd and that's, I figured that one out and I'd like share it with these people. And I'm like, this is how you figure it out. And they're like, oh, okay. And it gave them that little bit of confidence boost because it demystified something. It like unveiled a curtain And they're like, oh, I'm a step further along the process.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, what other tips and tricks? And that's what I used to always call it. Oh, these are the tips and tricks of being an artist.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is how you run a business.
Yeah.
This is like literally like, this is business.
Right.
It's not a mystery, it's not a tip or a trick. It's literally how we do this. But it was the demystifying of it that really, I call them light bulb moments. You can see it in their eyes where they're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now you talked about the entrepreneurial part where it went from like looking for, I will admit, for 20 years, I never had to look for work. People found me because I posted online. They're like, I want something similar. I'll go to him.
Right.
I am now in a position with Gamify Business where I'm actually looking for clients because I'm not 10 years down the road. I haven't established myself as this huge, person in this. And it's a completely different game. And it is one that as a 50-year-old dude, I am like, I'm not sure if this is how I do it. And I'm working with business coaches who do not understand this world at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to cram your cloud into this square box and we're just going to, and then do it this way and this will work. And I'm like, it does not work. And so I've spent a lot of time with paying a lot of money to business coaches to decipher what they're saying into a language that others can understand.
I see. Okay.
And it's still a process for me. I'm still learning it.
Right.
But
right.
That was the big thing that I realized is that I have to speak two languages, the language of business and the language of creatives.
Right.
And if I can decipher between the two, be the Rosetta Stone, then that's going to be my success through this.
Right. Right. Well, one of the things that I was thinking about while I was just listening to you talk is that I got from the corporate world that I lean on to this day is the idea of processes. Okay. So it's like there's methodologies, ways to do things that are tried and true, that have been done since the beginning of time, and that maybe some particular industries are better at some versus others. Like I happen to work in a large corporate world. I work for one of the big 3 automotive manufacturers. So I got to see a fully fleshed out multi-international corporation that is fully integrated, that has massive research wing like the GM Tech Center, that's full of PhDs, out to all the printing parts in the millions per hour, per day, whatever, quality levels, like all this stuff. Like I got to see like this is actually how you do everything that you might approach in life. In addition to the design, so there's a very like a third of the automotive business is the creative design part. You got to sell something. People you have to speak to it. You have to get inside people's heads and what they want to buy, all that part of it. But they had all these processes behind it all. So it's like, hey, this is how you do development. This is how you do advanced development. This is how you roll out these things. But there's like standard processes that they figured out over time. And that, to me, that's like the most valuable thing. And when you see that, I think it kind of decreases your anxiety, is more informative. And if you can put it in the language that a creative is more interested in absorbing, it's like that's like the holy grail, I think. So that's just very interesting, your experience. Okay, so tell me about how long has Gamify Business been around? How long have you been doing it now? You said you're just kind of starting to be known in it a little bit, like but not like your creative journey.
We're going into year 6 of doing this.
Okay.
And I say we, it's the royal me, I guess.
Okay.
Myself and I.
Right.
I'm a one-man dude. But I've said we for so long because, especially in the creative world, when I'm hired by a larger company, say Disney, and they're like, oh, we need you to pump out 500 of these pieces. If you say, okay, I'll do that, they're like, there's no way one person can do this.
Yes.
So I've just I've just started to say we and me
I
and
understand.
us or whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, got it. So yeah, it's going on year 6, and it was me just teaching people. I'd find people, I'd want to coach them one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really start writing the books until last year.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, I got you.
Because the process was it's custom. Like everything that I do and have been doing for 20 years has been custom. Somebody comes to me with a very specific idea. It's only for them. I make it. And so when I was going out to teach creatives this process, it ended up being very customized because not everybody is a D&D player, but not everybody's business is the same. And so what I found was that I had to still decipher the language, but into one that they understood versus a universal. There's never going to be just a one size fits all, especially in the creative world. And so I was doing all this custom, but then I was actually working with a client And they made little figurines of dragons. They're one of my favorite customers that I had, or clients that I've had. And I asked them one day, it was a group of 3, and I said, what is everybody's role in this business? And they said, oh, we do everything. And I'm like, well, that's not how you run a business. That's the way to run it into the ground.
Right.
I said, I need to know your specific, like, what's your strength? And they're like, we don't know. I said, okay, how about tomorrow? I'm gonna come back tomorrow, and we're gonna play Dungeons and Dragons Business Edition, because they were big nerd gamer people.
Right.
And they're like, okay, sure. And so that night I went home, back to the hotel, and I figured out how to play it. And we came back and we played for about 6 hours, and I made them play the character of their occupation within the job, what their strength was.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you're going to do this. And so they were able to talk through the challenges of business from that perspective. And the light bulb just kind of went off. And I was like, this is the way to approach it, because you can be anything within this role-playing game. It doesn't, so it's universal, but the lessons that we're learning can be systemic, they can be systematic. We can do it over and over again to different groups of people. And I think that's really what clicked for me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's take that and then all my design skills, and we'll write a player's handbook, like a Dungeons and Dragons book, that walks you through it. My book is it's too thorough. It's dense, but there's like 4 appendices that walk you through every scenario. We've got a monster manual within there, which is all the different kinds of clients that you might, like the scope creeper, which is as a creative, is something you encounter all the time. The person who wants something, and then as they're working on it, they keep adding more and more and more, but they don't pay you anything else.
Sure.
So we have these like monsters that you are going to encounter in your business, and all of that is included in the handbook. Now, the other book that I wrote is the Gamemaster's Guide, is what I have found that reaches most people from a consumer point of view. So like if you're an artist or creative and you're trying to sell to somebody else, is, and can I swear on this podcast? I don't know if I can swear on this podcast.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, cool. So I have a phrase that I like to use. The swear in there gives it the impact that it needs. It's quit selling your shit, sell yourself. And that is the crux of it, because I have found that story sells way better than a product. When you walk, I have friends who write books, and they're always like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And like, no, quit selling me your, like one of my friends, she wrote this book. She's like, I did this entire journey through self-discovery by using psychedelics. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a book about my journey. I would buy that book, because I'm like, I would love to know somebody's journey through psychedelics, but it's just, if she just walked out and goes, buy my memoir, it's like, no, I don't know who you are, why I would be interested. Story sells.
Right.
If you look at a red carpet for any event, they don't never ask, what are you wearing? Because they're going to be like, pants. No, they ask, who are you wearing? And it's because that person has a vision, and that's more important. And so from a creative point of view, or even a not an artist, but a creative, sell your story, because we as humans will relate to it. So the third book that I sell, which is Gamemaster's Guide, teaches you how to sell through storytelling, how to be the game master in your career. Right. So that you can entice more people in the business.
I really like this idea about storytelling, and it reminds me of, which I didn't want to believe, because I went to school for science and engineering, and I was a nerd. I was very like high like lab science guy for my early part of my career, but when it comes to selling and marketing, all the decisions, no matter how technical you are. And I was, a technical guy developing advanced technologies, selling directly to other technical people. Okay, so like, when you're doing like, hey, let's do a, fiber optic control network for your vehicle that does this, you're talking to the other engineers that are going to buy it. And so you're just assuming that they're like, hey, I showed you the presentation, here's the data, here's the spreadsheets, whatever. It's obvious that this is a better system. You need to buy it. What are you waiting for? I really didn't want to believe it, but the truth is, in a sales process or marketing process, the decisions are always 100% emotional when you decide to actually buy something. Doesn't matter how nerdy you are, how smart you are, what you got on your SATs, it doesn't matter. Because when you make the decision, it's an emotional decision. Because you're afraid to be judged, you're afraid it's going to fail, you're afraid it's the wrong move, you're afraid that you're going to be wasting budget money on it. And so this is where the story part, if the story is there and you're like, wait a second, this makes it a no-brainer for me to make this decision because I love this story, right? Because I want to know more about this person. I want to know about their journey, like you said. That helps you make the decision to like move in on it, dive in on it, right? So I never believed it for years. I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? This is obvious. You should just buy this.
I was talking to a potential client yesterday. I had a 15-minute quick chat, and they had invented an accounting software for construction.
Yeah.
And they were selling to construction companies, and they're trying to find seed money, trying to get funding for it and all that. And I said, well, what's your story that you're pitching?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, that it works really well. I'm like, nobody will buy that. I'm like, so I'm like, how did you come up with this idea? She's like, well, I worked for my mom's construction company for a really long time, and we noticed that some people couldn't remember when they got paid, or we didn't remember when they got paid, and all of this. And so I decided to take it upon myself to figure out how to make it easier for them, so we consolidated all of it so that everybody knows where we're at. I'm like, much better story. Sell that. Don't tell me about software. I don't care about the software.
Right.
I want to know how it's going to impact my story in my life. And it's true.
Right.
It's emotional.
Yes, it is. It really is. I mean, it's just amazing. Anyways, hey, Paul, it's been great having you on the podcast. But before we get out of here, I always have a couple more specific questions I like to ask people. And one is, since you're like creative and you're out there developing your entrepreneurial vision side now and getting these products out there, what is the role, speaking of role playing, what is the role of AI for you right now? How are you leaning into that? Because this is a hot topic, I think, for creatives in particular right now. And I have like a hot take on it. So I want to hear your answer first, and then I'll give you my hot take on what the future might look like. But how are you perceiving AI? Are you using it? Are you afraid of it? Tell me what you think about it.
I use AI every day. Every day I use it. Okay. And here's the thing: is it's a hammer. It's a tool. It is strictly a tool. And that's the thing that I think we have to get over, is that, because, there's AI out there that can create art, and I love to put that in quotes. It creates images, sure, but you have to be, there has to be a human behind it. It is a tool, and it's never an end product. It is just a device along the way. I actually encourage people to use it. I sell, in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, there's something called a familiar, which is like your pet, but it's a smart kind of pet or a clone. Mm-hmm. I sell a package where you can actually buy the ability. It teaches you how to create a clone of yourself, because who wouldn't want to have an extra version of you lying around helping you with all your questions and answers? Right. And it is through AI, but again, I'm not relying on the wealth of knowledge from the internet. I'm relying on my own information, my own knowledge and research that backs that up. And so the entire approach is through storytelling, because I want it to learn more about me and how I think. And so then when it responds to me, it's in my voice. And so that way it becomes, it's a more of a useful tool than just being this thing that is the answer to everything. I've written 3 books. The AI did not write my books. I wrote my books, but I'll use AI to help me to figure out an outline, or something like a tool or do some basic editing, because that's what I would pay an editor to do. And it's like, well, if I can eliminate a couple steps, make my process quicker, awesome. Right. So what's your hot take on AI? Okay.
Well, it's good to hear. Okay. So that you didn't immediately say I hate AI. We're all, the world's going to end tomorrow. Actually this afternoon, we better, get on board here. Okay. That's good. Well, so my hot take is, and I've been, digging into some podcasts and thinking about this stuff and experimenting with it myself. And last year I went to the Marketing AI conference here in Cleveland, which is actually going on this week, which is one of the big national AI conferences. It's for marketing AI. So it's put on by the AI Marketing Institute, which is in Cleveland. They have a big podcast. So people around the world know these guys. And so they get some of the heavy hitters here that are the LLM founders, like Perplexity and those kind of guys. Some of those guys show up, and they talk about AI and for marketing in particular. But I've been thinking about it, and just my travels and I kind of watch what people are doing. So I've been more of an investor the last 10, 15 years. And so one of my big insights into investing is just watching human behavior. That's kind of like the key to it all to me, is you look for tectonic shifts in human behavior for what's really valuable. I don't really look at numbers. I'm not a PE ratio and all that. There's all these numbers behind it, which I studied for a long time when I first kind of started investing. But the key to it is, if you find tectonic shifts of human behavior, there's always 2 or 3 companies that are going to win, and you find those companies. So it's kind of simple in a way, I think, but it's based on my own experience. However, so thinking about that and thinking about AI and observing people when I travel and observing some trends that are going on, obviously there's in the job scene and in the even creative scene, things are shifting around. There are jobs that are going to go away, right? And so if you think about it like, hey, we're going to be more efficient. And the biggest play, I think, of AI right now is efficiency. It helps you do things faster, helps you get to the answer faster, right? I don't know how creative it is, itself. Maybe it helps you be more creative more quickly, whatever it is. But it's basically an efficiency play right now. And if this is true, and let's say if we lose 10, 15% of the jobs, or it makes us all more efficient and we can work less for the same money, whatever, I see it as opening up a massive window for hospitality and entertainment. We're going to have more time on our hands, okay? And so who is there to fill that void? Creative people that can create entertainment, diversions, something to fill our free time with, because it's going to be in more demand, I think. Now, it might not look the same, like it might not be with a traditional movie in a theater, okay, but everyone's going to be looking around. I mean, I think this is part of where this wellness trend is coming from. Like we're drinking less alcohol, whatever, but there's like this whole sort of spa experience, contrast therapy. There's all these sort of wellness places popping up. It's like, because we have time on our hands, we can explore our actual health for the first time maybe in human history in a different way. Like before, we've been treating disease and making disease go away. Now we have time on our hands, and the technologies are there to optimize our experience as a human person now. Maybe we're going to live longer, right?
With technology, first, I have 2 points on this one, and I really want to, because they very, very much tie in.
Okay.
But one of them is that humanity, like what separates us is from animals is the ability to flourish and with downtime, and so making processes that allow us to have, so we're not just surviving, we're living,
right?
And that's the shift that you're talking about. Is less people are in survival mode and more people are into creative and living mode. That's a great thing. For anybody who is scared to death of AI, I want you to take a trip in the Wayback Machine, and I want you to go look at the Industrial Revolution. A lot of people don't know this, but during before the Industrial Revolution, if you wanted plates, or if you wanted horseshoes, or if you wanted nails, you had to go to a guy who was doing that specific thing. Right. And when the Industrial Revolution happened, all of those guys were put out of business. And I'm putting that in air quotes. Right. What happened was that nobody wants to sit around all day long and make 1,500 nails. Nobody does. Right. That's boring. So what happened is that those people, their job became obsolete, so then people started hiring them to do things that were more bespoke, things that were more interesting, things that were collectible. They stopped having to live. They were living. They were not just surviving. Right. So the blacksmith stopped making nails. He started making armor. He started making fanciful railings. He started pursuing creativity as opposed to necessity. Right. And that was the Industrial Revolution. This is the second Industrial Revolution for us. It's just called the AI Revolution. Right. And what it's doing is going to eliminate those same things. So the person who was doing the job of monotony will have that taken away, and there will be people who will grump about it. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Because, we're stealing the AI is stealing our jobs. Right. But are those jobs you want? I mean, that's really the question. Would you rather pursue something of higher learning? And some people don't. There will always be room for those people. There's just going to be less occupations for it. Right. And it's a good thing. It means we're progressing as a species, and that's what we need to do. Move forward. I love AI.
I think so. I mean, like I said, I think it's just going to open up this massive window for creative people, not in spite of them or not put them out of business. Because we're going to have extra time on our hands, and we're all thirsty to dive into things that are more creative, that enhance our life now, because we have the time. Yeah. We don't have to slave over that in the factories anymore. Like you said, like the Industrial Revolution was like an obvious thing. Hey, maybe you didn't have to be out in the farmlands anymore. You had a job that was a more interesting thing. But then those manufacturing jobs are repetitive, whatever. It's like, okay, after a while, it raises you to a certain level. But it's like, okay, what's next after that, And
exactly.
So anyways, I keep I'm always sort of a techno optimist when it comes to these things, just because I've lived these.
Me too.
I've lived these sort of lives being in advanced development. It's like, look, this has happened throughout history. When fire was invented, everybody thought about like, oh my God, it's going to burn the whole place down. Like, why should we have fire? This is crazy. But obviously it helps. It helps you evolve as a species.
Yes.
So, anyways, well, that's great. Okay, all right. Got one final question for me. Thanks for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
And my final question is, can you share with everyone a reinvention revelation? That's what I call it. Something that you've learned along the way that helps you think about yourself differently, or business differently, or the world differently, that might help someone else move along in their journey more quickly and more efficiently. People that are also interested in changing or seeing the world differently like you do.
I think two-part answer. I love two-part answers. The first one is no one is thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. So what you put out there, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's a big one. Okay. The other one is be honest with yourself. Live your honest life, and don't try to be, because like when I'm creating a piece of art and I hang it on the wall, as soon as I've hung it on the wall and someone else views it, I have lost ownership of that, because what they see in that painting, for instance,
right,
or what they hear in your music is not what I expected them to hear, because my lived life tells me what I'm going to experience. Because when I look at that, I'm like, because I'm thinking about, I'm walking in my own shoes here. I cannot walk in anyone else's shoes. I don't know. Even my children, who I've raised since babies, have completely different perspectives than I do.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to give that up. So put out whatever you want out there, but then don't be upset when someone doesn't view your creation, however it is, in the light that you think that they should.
Right.
Release the ownership and just see where it goes. Let it grow.
Right.
That'd be the two pieces.
I like that. Well, it's it's kind of speaking to the ego. I like that. So it's sort of like, don't be afraid. Get out of your own way, and you can't control it once it's out there, and that's sort of freeing and cathartic. And one thing I was thinking when you were saying that was, really like living your truth or speaking your truth, is that, just I know my own issues growing up in family, whatever, there's things that you don't want to believe, or that you don't think are right, or things that happen to you that you push out of your mind because you don't want to even acknowledge that it happened. But that's not living your truth. And the more you can grab onto those, honor it, and say like, oh wow, this is my truth. Oh, this is who I am. Okay, that will help your creativity speak louder, and I think be more beneficial for yourself and for maybe for others who experience it as well. So
absolutely,
very cool. Well, Paul, thanks for coming on. And if people are interested in gamifying their business, like your offer is all about, if they're super nerdy and they're in the world of Star Wars and figurines and all that kind of stuff, and they want to get in touch with you, because if I was one of those people, I would. I'm a little bit one of those people, by the way. Where would you tell them to go? How should they get in touch with you? What would you say?
If you're interested in gamifying your business, it's gamifybusiness.com. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
If you're interested in getting something from Santa for Nerds, it's Paul Pape Designs.
Okay.
It's my name with designs at the end. It's really easy. And honestly, if you have to go there, Google some weird thing that you want, you'll probably see a representation of it, and I probably am the one who made it.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
I've been on the internet doing this for 20 years, so it's crazy. But yeah, no idea is too crazy, and I've done podcasts where they've asked me the crazy ones, and yeah, they're out there. So
okay,
yeah, paulpapedesigns.com or gamifybusiness.com, and you can find me on all social medias under those two handles.
Awesome, I'll check it out, and those links will be in the show notes, so you can always
awesome.
You can go there if all the listeners out there. So, Paul, thanks again. Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on Jim Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it and will help others find the same value that you found.